Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Workforce Wednesday webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about the Job Accommodation Network, or JAN. We've got Lori Kittner on here. We're very, very excited to have her as a presenter. Before we get started, I'm going to do a couple of housekeeping items and then some polls. So first of all, my name is Antonio Gomez. I work for the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support, based out of Illinois State University. I'll be happy to be the moderator and technical support. So if you have any questions or if anything's going on, feel free to post it in the chat, and I'll help you out with that. I'll also be moderating the chat for any questions. You can also use the Q&A feature to ask questions, and I can let you know if we'll answer it live or if we can answer it in the chat. But if you don't know how to use the Q&A function, it should be in the bottom scroll on your Zoom. If not, it is in those three dots that say more. You can also see the chat there. You can enable closed captions if you need to. Closed captions are turned on for this session. We will also be recording this webinar just so that you're aware. The recording will be available in about 48 hours on the Illinois Workforce Academy, and I'll post a link to that in the chat. Give me just a brief second. That did not post as a link. Give me a second. I'll go find that link while Lori's talking. But the recording will be available on the Illinois Workforce Academy. The recording and the slides will also be available, so any links will be clickable through that. And that'll be in about 2 business days. Before we get started, though, I'm going to do a couple of polls. The first poll that we have is what location you're from. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll and give people time to take a look at that. A lot in Northern Illinois. Oh, Central's almost beating it. I think we got most everybody, so I'm going to go ahead and end it and share the results. It does look as though Northern Illinois has kind of won, but we're happy to see everybody here. And then the second poll that I'm going to share is what partner you represent. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll as well. We got Title 1, Title 2, Title 3, Title 4, other WIO partners and stakeholders, or State and Local Innovation Work Board. Workforce Innovation Board. All right, looks like we got most everybody. Looks like a lot of Title 1. Happy to see you all. Some Title 3, some Title 4, and some other WIO stakeholder partners and Workforce Innovation Board members. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that. Without further ado, Lori, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you.
Great. Here we go. All right. I got my screen up here. Can everybody see that?
I don't see your screen yet.
There we go.
Yep, there we go. Everything looks good. Yep,
all right,
that looks
good.
Perfect.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to introduce myself real briefly here. My name is Lori Kittner. I work for Illinois Department of Human Services, Division of Rehabilitation Services. For those of you who can't see me on the screen, I am a white woman with short brown hair and glasses. My position is Assistant Bureau Chief for Region 2, which means I oversee 10 offices in the northern part of the state, including the collar counties, Lake, McHenry, Will, Grun, DuPage, all those collar counties, and out west to Freeport and Rockford. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of who I am. I've been working in rehabilitation services for about the last 15 years. And I'm very excited to share with you the new to me, revamped JAN website, or Job Accommodation Network, and their features and how they can be used by a variety of different people. Before we get started here, just our goals for today. We are going to talk real briefly about what a reasonable accommodation is, working with people with disabilities, and then we'll dive right into the JAN website, and we'll talk about the features that they have, how you can access those features, get one-on-one help, and who their intended audiences are. So if you have any questions, again, please put them in the chat, and Antonio will be helping me with that. We have a reasonably sized group today, so I think we can get through both the presentation and any questions you have. And if we don't, I fully intend on going back and reading through the chat and answering any questions later. So, or just feel free to get in touch with me later if you have any questions as well. So when we're talking about working with individuals with disabilities, the term reasonable accommodation comes up quite frequently, both from the consumer or employee standpoint and from the employer standpoint. So I think it's important for us to have like a well-rounded description of exactly what that is and defined so that we can all have a good starting point. One definition I really like that I found a few different places, including the JAN website, um, is any modification or adjustment to a job, an employment practice, or work environment to ensure that the individual with a disability has an equal opportunity to perform necessary tasks known as essential functions. And so I really like that. It's a strong, robust, definition of reasonable accommodation. According to the ADA, when that went into effect, employers with 15 or more employees were mandated to provide reasonable accommodations. So that's the vast majority of US companies that must provide accommodations for employees. If a small business or an employer indicates that a specific accommodation or situation presents an undue hardship financially or causes a disruption to other workers, the employer does not have to provide that accommodation. Although I will say that if you're going to deny an accommodation, um, you better be pretty sure about that and be able to back up what you're saying with that financial information showing that this specific accommodation that's being requested is very expensive and this is how it's going to impact my small business, or be able to demonstrate the type of task that it is and that provision of that accommodation is disruptive to other workers. Okay, so most places, even if they're under 15 employees, they better provide those reasonable accommodations if at all possible. Okay. Otherwise, you're just opening yourself to a lawsuit. A reasonable accommodation can be provided for an interview upon request. Most generic job applications, and HR department will put that right on the application to let them know if if they require a reasonable accommodation for the interview. That might be something like adjusted time, extra time to respond to questions, written response to questions as opposed to verbal, um, sign language interpreter, something like that for the interview. And then the last thing I'll say about reasonable accommodations, and I think this is just about the most important thing here, accommodations are required for those who are otherwise qualified for the job. People who would not be able to do the job even with the accommodation would not be able to, if they're not qualified or if they can't do the job even with the accommodation, then we don't need to provide the accommodation. So if if their degree is in biology and this is, an editor position for a newspaper, maybe we might not even be able to get them to the point where they could do the job. So reasonable accommodation, not everything accommodation. Okay. and only for the essential functions of the job. So if it's, just kind of traditional for this person to do a few extra duties, or the last person that did the job always made the coffee in the morning. If it's not in their job description and it's not an essential function of the job, that's not something that we would usually provide an accommodation for. Okay. Um, Bulk of the presentation today, I'm going to be talking about JAN, or the Job Accommodation Network. And JAN has been around for a long time, established in 1983 by the U.S. Department of Labor, Disability Employment Policy Unit, or ODEP. And JAN is a well-known resource in the rehabilitation world, to go to for resources on what kind of accommodations are available, and disability related employment issues of all different types. This is a free resource. I can't emphasize that enough. And it's constantly being updated in all the different areas that we'll talk about today. When I was in grad school in the mid 90s, it was more of a paper and pencil thing, and the website was cumbersome. It took a long time to navigate through, and you really had to know what you were looking for before you even opened up the website. Today, I can open up that website and just skate right through it. It's beautiful. It's great. And as an HR person or a rehab professional, I'm sure every one of us could spend hours just perusing the website, because there is so much to learn. And in fact, that tends to be a problem. Once you dive in, you're not going to be able to get off of it. So I'm gonna give us just a brief overview today. And again, it's free. So I love a free a free website that's going to give me information, and one-on-one help, which Jan will do. Jan is aimed at multiple audiences. First and foremost, it's aimed at the consumer or the employee, to give them ideas about what can be available for them as far as accommodations. It lets consumers know about what their rights are as an employee with a disability, so that they are aware of how to gain those accommodations. Lets them know what other people are getting, what could be possible, what's out there, and lets them know where to go if something goes awry with those accommodations. There's a lot of information about the ADA and other laws that impact employment, that consumers will find very interesting and good. JAN is also aimed at providers, like myself, so meaning rehab professionals, people who are working with students and adults with disabilities. Again, it goes through all the laws. This is like a master's level review of all of the psychosocial impacts of disability, accommodations, different types of disabilities, things like that. So it's great for a VR geek. And then it's lastly aimed at employers. And this is where we'll spend the most time today, talking about the features that they have with regard to employment law, possible accommodations, and the one-on-one assistance that they can offer. Again, for individuals, Jan starts out with a good primer on when and how to disclose a disability. They have sample letters for individuals to send to potential employers or current employers, asking for accommodations of any type. They will also meet with employees and discuss with them negotiating accommodations. They can also provide examples of medical requests, because a lot of accommodations, uh, employers need to request medical information, with a release of information to the person's primary care or specialty doctor, to confirm the disability and um, what the symptoms are and how they present for this individual and what limitations result. So examples of medical requests are in the website, both for employers and for consumers or employees.
Hey, Lori,
And then, yeah,
we have a question. Um,
sure.
so the question is they're talking about undue hardship, undue burden of
Right.
reasonable accommodations. They're asking if it is 15 or more employees or 15 or fewer employees that are permitted to demonstrate undue hardship slash exemption.
Anybody can claim undue hardship. So employers with 15 or more employees have to at least try to give reasonable accommodations. So when the
And
ADA first went into effect, a lot of small businesses were balking, especially at the um, public accommodations. So for example, family friend of mine had a small bar local, and they didn't know how they were going to put in ADA accessible um, restrooms. And it took a while, but they finally figured it out. Because they had less than 15 employees, they didn't really have to put those in, but they ended up doing it anyway because it was just going to make their business more uh, friendly to the public. Um, now that was not an accommodation for an employee, but it was for the public side of it. Um, Again, everybody with 15 or more must try and give accommodations. Um, and so when it comes to undue hardship, if you're trying to show that it's too much of a financial burden to provide a specific accommodation, you're going to want to show how much you thought you might have to spend, what the accommodation is, and why you cannot spend that kind of money. Okay,
awesome. Thank you so much.
sure. Let's see. I think the last point on this slide is we're talking about for consumers or employees. If an accommodation is denied, JAN also offers some linkages to organizations and um, laws that might be a benefit to the employee, to look at recourse. Okay. And that's another, feature that I think is important for employers to look over as well. And that's, that's one of the great things about this website is they're putting the laws out there, just for anyone to read and interpret and see what's been done in the past, so that we can all have examples. And then for rehab providers like myself, again, this website is comprehensive as far as becoming familiar with various disabilities and their impact on the ability to work, maintain employment in different fields, as well as reasonable accommodations that may be appropriate in a variety of scenarios. And we'll get into that a little further down the line here. Another one thing that I love about JAN is that they have, a comprehensive, and when I'm talking about comprehensive, there are disabilities and health conditions on this website that you may not see anywhere else or just hear about now and then. And they've got it all listed there and exactly what it is, what it means, what the symptoms could be, everything, including new or developing disabilities. And, if you're like me, 6 years ago, I thought, yeah, all the disabilities and all the health conditions are out there. There's not really anything new. And then guess what? COVID hit. And now we have people with long COVID, multiple symptoms, multiple um, limitations due to long COVID and associated trauma, all of that. And so there are sections on the JAN website about that and how to deal with it, as well as what accommodations may be needed there. Along with that, they really do a great job of keeping abreast of the disability laws and employment laws. They partner with the EEOC to ensure that everything is covered. It's just a really great one-stop for rehab professionals too. And then the biggest sections on JAN are really aimed at employers. And towards that end, they make it really, really easy to get in touch with them and do one-on-one consultation, which is free. So everybody loves that. HR professionals or business owners can get in touch with Job Accommodation Network in a variety of ways. As soon as you pull up their website, there is a live chat um, tool that's there, as well as contact us email, where you can get in touch with someone who has specialization in different disabilities or different kind of sectors of employment, and different accommodations. So it will give you a one-on-one consultation within a day. Last time I did this, I had a call back within 24 hours from them, asking for more information and how they could help me, all of that. And like I said, now there is a live chat or on-demand feature on the website as well. If you just need a quick question answered, or if you'd like to just do that initial outreach to them via the on-demand chat, that's fine too. You can also fax them, although I didn't put their fax number down, or give them a call at their 1-800 number. One thing I would like to note, when you call them, if you're calling them about a particular employee and provision of accommodations for them, be sure that you know or have an idea of the medical condition that the individual has, as well as what the job duties are and what the specific barriers may be that you're facing in the workplace. So that they can immediately jump right in and start brainstorming with you or asking, pertinent questions to get you pointed in the right direction. But they're specialists. Like I said, they vary from specialists in different types of disabilities, like mobility experts. They have low vision and blindness resources, hard of hearing and deaf, um, and developmental and intellectual disabilities. They have kind of the gamut there, as well as specialists in a variety of different accommodations or types of workplaces. So retail versus manufacturing versus healthcare, all of those different employment sectors. Okay. And then they also have, you can also, of course, ask them general questions about the ADA, accommodations, documentation. If you need to establish a company policy, they can walk you through that process with their HR specialists as well. Here are a few of the things that they have in through the website, and we're going to go through these plus a few more here. under the employer section of the JAN website, there's a best practice as results from the current laws. That's where you're going to find any sample letters, sample forms, policies, that type of thing, will be in that section. And then they have what they call the SOAR, or Searchable Online Accommodation Resource. And that's the one that I keep referring to, where you can look up a specific disability. For example, I was looking at glaucoma today, just as an example, and it gave all the symptoms of glaucoma, what it is, when it occurs, rate of occurrence, all of those types of things, and possible accommodations for that, whether those accommodations need to be permanent 24, every single day, or whether it may be intermittent, all of those kind of things. So it lists like every possible disability or health condition on their website. And if you think of one or find one that's not listed, I'm sure they'd love to hear about it, so that they can add that in. And then they have articles such as, they have a big article and section of articles on the costs and benefits of accommodation. And this is a live link here. So once you get the presentation, you can click on that, and that'll show that to you. Because I think most people are aware, maybe a few are not, that generally speaking, workplace accommodations are relatively cheap. I think 75% of all accommodations provided are under $500. So for most companies, that's worthwhile. A, to keep a great employee, and B, so that they don't look like, so that we're being equitable, so that we're providing those accommodations and getting the best employees, and showing our best face forward. So they have a lot of articles on how to provide accommodations at a low cost. They also have a forms library separate for HR directors, HR workers, and staff members or employees. And they have a toolkit for employers, which we'll talk about. And I skipped here. They have some linkages to outside resources, like the Regional ADA Center, VR, which is me, and federal resources and agencies who can also help, in addition to them, with reasonable accommodations and ADA law. One of the big things that other things that I found on the JAN website that I really liked are case studies under their publications and articles. And this is where they really broke it down for all of us, workforce innovation, WIOA folks. These are the ever popular sectors, employment sectors, right? So they have different case studies of people with disabilities working in all of these different sectors, and examples of how they got their accommodations, what accommodations they're using, and with different disabilities to be able to work in these fields. So I think that's absolutely wonderful, and it just gives you an idea of the scope of the accommodations that are available, or that you could be implementing in your workplace. And then this is that JAN Workplace Accommodation Toolkit that I referenced a few minutes ago. This is like your HR gold mine here. This has information for management and staff, information about disabilities and reasonable accommodation for coworkers of people with disabilities, such as disability etiquette, first person language, how to, not put your foot in your mouth when you're talking to someone with a disability. That's what that translates to. And then it has a lot of information for employees with disabilities, like how to request accommodations, when to do that, and what can and cannot be accommodated. So like just what we were talking about before, where, if they just have plain old have the wrong degree or the wrong training, we cannot accommodate, you know, um, those types of things, but we can accommodate someone who has the right education, who has the qualifications and wants to work in the field and can do it with a little bit of help, right? So we can change some things, but we can't change it all. So this helps explain that to all different ranges of people, from management to the actual employee, so that everybody's on the same page. And then we're coming up to the end here, but I just wanted to share with you a couple of other resources that might be of help to you. This is the Region 5 or Great Lakes ADA Center. It's actually located out of the University of Illinois at Chicago location, or UIUC, and University, or excuse me, at UIC or UIUC, so Champaign or Chicago, University of Illinois, can help you with that. And here is the number at University of Chicago, adagreatlakes.org. The ADA Center is excellent at providing guidance on, of course, on the ADA and what is required for employers. Great resource for employees as well. And always encourage people to look that over and get in touch with them. They also do great presentations on workplace etiquette, working with individuals with disabilities, first person language, again, all those, all those things that can make the workplace a more friendly place for individuals with disabilities. And then finally, I just wanted to say a little word about my agency, which is Illinois Department of Human Services, Division of Rehabilitation Services. We are the number one or the go-to agency in Illinois for assistance in job placement and training for people with disabilities. We provide like I said, the training. We can provide accommodations and assistive technologies for people while they're in training or on the job, depending on what's required. Sometimes for our customers, they may need personal accommodations like hearing aids or special vision equipment that's specific to them, that may not be appropriate for the employer to purchase, and training for that equipment. And we can usually provide that, as well as general training that leads to employment. We provide help with apprenticeships, everything from certificate programs through graduate school, as far as job training, as well as the job placement. We provide assistance or job coaching for those first few weeks on the job or longer, depending on what is needed for an individual in order to maintain their employment. Just a wide variety of things. And also provide information and linkages for employers who are looking for employees who may be interested in hiring individuals with disabilities. That is usually handled through our business engagement services. A lot of our business engagement specialists are part of of the local business community. and can be reached that way, but you can contact your local DRS office for more information about that if you're looking to hire individuals with disabilities to round out your employee base, and help fill those jobs. So, okay. And then there's a link here. Again, when you get your slides, you'll be able to click on that. And that will show you the local office locator for DRS. And we'd be glad to answer any questions or assist in any way with hiring individuals with disabilities. And that is about all I have for today. Are there any further questions or comments at this point?
Before we do questions, since we've got a little bit of extra time,
Yeah,
would you mind if I share my screen and I can show them around a little bit on the website?
absolutely. Yeah,
Excellent.
that'd be
Lori
great.
presented this at a previous meeting that we were having, and it was really like I was so impacted by this website. So I want to show you guys what all it offers and how to kind of navigate it. So can you see my screen now? The job accommodation? Okay.
Yes,
So it is
I do.
askjan.org. I'm going to move my little thumbnails somewhere else because they're in my way. We've got resources for employers, for individuals, A through Z. If you click on it, it's listed by disability, by limitation, by work-related function, by topic, by accommodation. And you can just kind of scroll through like what they have available. But I'm just going to click on a random one by disability, like eating disorders. And it's got general information here, possible accommodations. It's very, very, very thorough. And then going back to the home page, we got A through Z that we were just in. Situations and solution finder is great. MyJAN is how you build a profile. Publications, there's a lot of publications, and some of them are from within Jan's blog. It's fun to just kind of go through. Um,
It really is.
Training.
And I'm telling you what, I got lost so
Oh
many times
yeah.
in that A to Z and in the publication section. I'm
Mhm.
telling you, HR people and rehab professionals are just going to get lost in those articles. It's that's that's part of the reason why
It's a
I didn't go
wealth.
to the
Yeah.
website because it's overwhelming, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it's so it's so informative. It's fantastic. So
And then we've got training and about Jan here. The other thing that I can never know how to find is the sample forms. I always just search forms, and there is an option that is sample forms, A through Z sample forms. So I'm assuming it's on the through Z page somewhere, but I can't find it. But there's
yeah.
a bunch of all the sample forms that Lori was talking about. So if you can't find anything, there's a little search bar here. But that's it. That's all I wanted to
And
share.
yeah, and I'll just tell you when you hit that MyJAN button on there, it will let you save the forms that you need to develop or tweak for your own company if you're an employer. So if you're an employer who really needs to like update reasonable accommodation request forms or medical documentation request forms, for a reasonable accommodation, whatever it is, like FMLA forms, even I'm sure they have that out there. It gives you the laws that tell you why you need this form or why you need to be doing this. And it gives you samples of the form. It will not tell you they're watermarked, so they all say sample. And it will not tell you this is the form you have to use. They're not going to do that. They're going to give you examples from small businesses, mid-sized businesses, and large corporations. So then you can tweak it, put in your own verbiage, whatever. As always, consult with your own attorney and all that good stuff. But it will give you the basics so that you can build your own disability library for your HR department that will walk employees through the process. So it's an excellent website in that manner.
We do have one question in the Q&A from Rory. It says, do you have a good contact person, number, email address for someone at DRS if a workforce/job center staff have a job seeker that would benefit from DRS's assistance regarding accommodations, assisted tech, and or other job placement? We occasionally get WEO job seekers who might already have a case with DRS, or some who might not. But sometimes we might need guidance or assistance with the resources that you've mentioned. So I was wondering if and how we would be able to refer individuals to DRS. In what situations would that be appropriate as well?
Yes, absolutely. And you can email me and let me know what area it's in or what county it's in, and I can give you the supervisor's email at that DRS office. And my email address, I believe, is on the slides, but I'll put it in the chat as well. So,
I'm sorry, I might have made that go away. I just saw you were typing.
that's okay. There we go. Yeah, DRS has offices, throughout the state. I think we're at like 53 offices right now, maybe, not sure. And we have representation. We are a WIOA partner for Title IV. So we have offices throughout the state that partner with the Illinois WorkNet, One Stops, all of those folks, and who are involved in the MOU negotiations as well. So should
Any
be
final
should
questions?
be pretty easy to find that information. So,
Any final questions before we log off?
well, I just want to thank you all for letting me present today, and Antonio, especially you, for carrying this over. I know it's been a interesting transition to 2025 for our workforce boards and everything. So I'm really glad that I could present today, and hope that others can benefit from this as well, with the recording and the slides. So thank you very much.
We're thrilled to have you. I really, really enjoyed watching this again. I feel like I learned something new every time. And
Okay.
thank you, everyone who was very involved. We really appreciate your feedback. Any last questions before we log off? All right. If there are no questions, the video and recording, the recording and the slides will be available on the Illinois Workforce Academy in 48 hours. You have Lori's email if you want to reach out to her for any questions for DRS. And I believe that's all. All
All
right.
right. Thanks,
Thank you,
guys. Have a
everyone. Have a
great
great day.
day.
Bye bye.